Welcome back to my channel, friends. This is the 5th video in a long series of videos I'm making about this book, Drunk with Blood, God's Killings in the Bible by Steve Wells. I recommend that you read it. It gives an interesting perspective on the Bible, and I will have the link to where you can buy it on Amazon in the description below. It basically covers the topic of who killed more, God or Satan. Well, I have covered this in previous videos in this series, and basically his estimate is God killed 25 million, Satan 60. So it takes a deep dive into the killings of the Bible, and we've been doing that in this series of videos. One by one, we've been looking at the killings in the Bible. Now, I do read a lot from this book, his commentary. Most of the scriptures I will just put on the screen here for you if you want to look them up yourself. Occasionally I will read some of them. And also he quotes from the King James Version, okay? And what else do I need to remind you of? Oh, I do read all his commentary though, because he has such a great sense of humor, which I keep saying you need when you're reading these sinister, disturbing killings in the Bible. I hope you appreciate his humor as much as I do.
I'm changing my life and I won't look back ever again.
So let's get started with the 4th killing in the Bible. This one he entitles, Remember Lot's Wife, Forget Jesus. And we'll get into why he makes that comment. Although this is God's 4th killing event, it is the first of God's 2,821,364 countable victims. Okay, so there's a difference between what he's saying here is there's a difference between how many you can actually count because the Bible gives you numbers, and then there is the bigger number where he has to estimate some of the killings because the Bible doesn't give the number. So that's what he's talking about. It's interesting that God's first countable victim is unnamed. God killed Mrs. Lot without even knowing, or at least telling us, her name. And what was it that got God's attention? What did she do that caused him to kill her? She looked back at the place she had lived all her life. She looked back as her family, friends, and neighbors were being smashed and burned to death by God. She looked back. Genesis 19:26. But his wife looked back from behind him, and she became a pillar of salt. And he says, and of course, the angel told her not to, at Genesis 19:15-17. The angel didn't say why she shouldn't look back or what would happen to her if she did. He just said, don't do it. And she did it anyway. So God turned her into a pillar of salt.
I'm an agnostic myself, but I have prayed many times to God to turn my wife into a pillar of salt.
He says, I have met Christians who ignore this story, as they ignore pretty much everything in the Old Testament. They sometimes call themselves, quote, red letter Christians, unquote, meaning that they base their beliefs on the words of Jesus. But Jesus believed in the story about Sodom and Gomorrah. He believed in the story about Lot's wife. He saw nothing wrong with any of it. In fact, he said that when he returns at the end of the world, it will be just like that. You can check for yourself in your red letter Bible. And so then he quotes Luke 17:26-32. So I encourage you to read that. Then he says, Jesus had no problem with God's first 2 mass murders, the flood of Noah and the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah, or with God's killing of Lot's wife. It'll be just like that at the end of the world if Jesus has anything to say about it. So remember Lot's wife and forget Jesus. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. It helps the video get out to more people, and together we can help a lot of people. Well, thanks for being here for another video in this series, Drunk with Blood, and I will catch you on the next video.
I'm changing my life.